planning a cruise to Alaska? Are you looking at shore excursions in Skagway and wondering which one to choose? Today I'm going to walk you through the shore excursion I took in Skagway of September 2023. We visited the Kroschel Wildlife Center. It was amazing. A very special trip, a very special tour, one that is well worth considering. Today I'm going to walk you through the tour, what it cost, what it involved, how the day unfolded, and what we thought of the Kroschel Wildlife Center. So, let's get started. First things first, I booked this tour while traveling on the Royal Princess. I was cruising Alaska with family in September of 2023. I booked this tour through my ship. This is what the tour advertisement looked like when I booked it through Princess Cruise Lines. They called it the Kroschel Wildlife Refuge, an Animal Planet exclusive. It's advertised as being a little over 6 hours long and about $220 per person. Now, if you go to Kroschel Wildlife website, they refer to themselves as the Kroschel Wildlife Center. So it's called different things: Wildlife Center, Wildlife Refuge, Wildlife Sanctuary, but you're going to look for the name Kroschel. This is what the tour promised. We were to be met at the pier in Skagway and taken to a ferry. We would board the ferry and cruise to Haines, Alaska. The ferry ride was to be between 30 and 45 minutes long each way. After we arrived in Haines, we would be met by another tour guide who would load us onto a bus and drive us to the sanctuary. At the sanctuary, the tour would last about 2 hours. The bus would take us back to the ferry, and then we would board the ferry and cruise back to the port of Skagway. At the appointed time, we tendered over to the pier, which was about a 3-minute process. Once on the pier, it was very obvious where to go to gather for our tour. There was a person standing there with a big sign. So we all gathered, and when it was time, the tour guide led us to the ferry right there at the pier. It was a medium-sized ferry, very nice. It had a very spacious indoor area with seating, and it had plenty of room up top if you wanted to be out in the open. It was a chilly, windy day, so we alternated between being inside and being up top, but it was best to be up top because it was a spectacular, beautiful ferry ride over to Haines. I had not even thought about this part of the tour being special, but it was very special. The ferry ride was gorgeous, and we caught sight of a glacier. We saw bald eagles. Look at this beautiful scenery. Mountains everywhere, beautiful water. And then we pulled up to this beautiful little beach area to disembark. There were restrooms at the disembarkation place if we needed them. Our tour guide was waiting for us, and we very quickly loaded on to a little bus and set out. It was about a 30 to 40 minute ride from the pier in Haines out to the Wildlife Center. Our bus driver was also our tour guide, and as we drove, she told us all kinds of interesting information about Haines. Haines itself is very worthy of a visit. It's beautiful, and it has a lot of history here. She prepared us for the visit by telling us more about the Wildlife Center, and she made the drive very interesting, and it just flew by. We arrived at the Wildlife Center, and we were met by Patrick. Patrick is one of the people who works here, and he immediately started showing us around. The very first thing we did was go visit this amazing, beautiful, gorgeous wolf. Now, I want to take a minute here to explain that this is not a private animal collection. This is not a zoo. These animals cannot survive in the wild. They all have their own story. Most of them have been orphaned at a very young age. Each of the animals here have been gifted to Steve by the state of Alaska. These animals cannot be rehabbed and re-released into the wild. They have to be cared for the rest of their lives, and Steve Kroschel is giving these animals their best life possible. We spent quite a bit of time watching Patrick and Maluna interact with each other, while Patrick talked to us a great deal about wolves in general, what they're like, what it's like caring for a wolf, how different it is from having a dog. Even though the wolf seems friendly like a dog, he explained to us all of the differences. This was by far the greatest possible way to start the tour. We were just in awe of Maluna. She was beautiful, so fascinating, such a privilege to be this close to this magnificent creature. I want to take a minute to talk about Steve Kroschel. He is a fascinating person, and he is absolutely 100% a huge part of the entertainment and fascination of this tour. Yes, the animals are the main reason to come, but it turns out Steve is a huge reason to come as well. He is eccentric in the best possible way.
Or canned or whatever. You can probably tell that. Huh? What? You're on that side. You're in the correct position.
Okay, so everybody needs to be on this side. On that side.
Boy, I like that direction. You know, the thing of it is, a lot of people, you know, they travel to Alaska because they want to get away from the cacophony of society. You've been on an airport and you've been on a bus and this and that and all this noise. You come here, first opportunity for tranquility, and what happens? You bump into people like me. Tour guides. Blah, blah, blah. You know what?
Steve spent much of his life working in the film industry with animals. For example, he worked with the wolves in Dances with Wolves. He's worked with moose and bear and foxes and all kinds of animals. He made this tour come to life, and this is one of the things I loved about the tour the most. Nothing here was expected. Nothing here was institutional or straightforward. First of all, this whole place is built into nature. There are no concrete slabs here. There is nothing expected here. The animals are living in pens that are carved right out of the mountainside. They're built into the hills. Everything is beautiful, natural, really different. There is a huge value here on nature, wildlife, coexisting with wildlife. You can just feel the respect for the animals everywhere you go. Now, Steve did an excellent job all day long telling us about each animal, bringing them to life, sharing their story, and he kept us so entertained, so interested, so fascinated by everything he said.
Changing.
He was an amazing person, so different, so interesting to listen to, so funny and animated.
The ocean temperatures were different, the jet stream. And so where the mammoths were, they have these tusks. There's not just a head ornament. They push the debris away, and they're eating the tundra grasses and the buttercups and little flowers, you know. And they're eating. I'll speed it up. You're starting to yawn. And anyway, these windstorms would come, and it would start to blow. That silt would hit them in their little eyes, and they had.
We visited with the snowy owl, and then Patrick brought out another wolf, a black wolf that was a sister to the first wolf we saw. This wolf was very tame. We were not allowed to approach or touch the wolf, but we got very good photos, a great look at her. That was amazing. We wandered around the whole center, and Steve talked to us about each animal. We got to see a red fox, this beautiful lynx, and this adorable pine marten. Throughout the whole tour, Steve found ways to engage us. He didn't just stand there and talk at us for 2 hours. He kept drawing us in one at a time. He asked us a lot of questions. He invited us to step up for photos. He found ways to keep us all engaged and really involved. He would often make jokes about, "Oh, they're losing interest, time to move on." Patrick brought out this beautiful little porcupine, and we were allowed to very carefully pet it if we wanted to. It was one surprise after another, one amazing animal after another. I've never been this close to this many beautiful wild animals. It was such a memorable experience. I do want to take a minute and mention here that this is not a good tour for someone with mobility challenges. As I said, this is built into the wilderness. You're walking around on grass and dirt, and it may be wet and slippery. There is no pavement here. There are no ramps or stairs. You will be going up and down steep hills as well. If you have a mobility challenge, you're going to want to look into this quite a bit. But you may want to go straight to their website and see what they say, or give them a call. We saw lots of small animals. Steve kept us laughing. He kept us learning. He kept us so engaged. Just an amazing experience. We got to see some caribou. We saw more small animals and foxes. The tour just flew by, and after about 2 to 2.5 hours, we were all done, and it was time to head back. So, now that I've told you all about the tour, let's go back and look at what was promised, whether or not the tour delivered, whether or not we think it was worth $220 per person. First of all, did the tour deliver everything it promised? Yes, it did. We were met at the pier, we were escorted to the ferry ride was seamless, we were bused to and from the Wildlife Center. We were also provided a little bagged snack when we got back on the bus to ride back to the ferry. There were restrooms available along the way. The tour lasted between 2 and 2.5 hours at the center. All in all, the day went perfectly. Was it worth $220 per person? Absolutely. This was an amazing tour. I don't know how we would have made it over there much more cheaply. We would have had to arrange for the ferry ride. We would have had to arrange for transportation from the ferry to the Wildlife Center. You have to pay, of course, to visit the center, and you have to make reservations with them directly if you're not booking through the ship. This was convenient. It was a special day. This was by far one of the more memorable port excursions I've ever done, especially in Alaska. I have never been this close to wolves, bears, a lynx, all of the wild animals that we saw that day. It was a unique, special experience that I can't imagine I will duplicate anywhere else. Getting to see the facility, meet the animals, meet Steve and Patrick, it was special. It was a privilege. I hope that's been helpful to you. If you have enjoyed this review of this port excursion, please consider subscribing and please hit the like button. Have you been to this Wildlife Center? If so, please leave a comment. Have you been to Alaska? If so, please leave a comment. Tell us all about it. Tell us what your favorite thing was that you did while you were in Alaska. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day and enjoy your next cruise. Bye-bye.